Happy NFL schedule release day to all of you that celebrate, myself included. We're going to have the full schedule in a few hours, so come back and check on the channel for a breakdown of that. But today, I first want to start talking about Ken Dorsey because I want to look at three players that I think could ball out, that will really flourish under Ken Dorsey. And then we'll have the full schedule in a few hours, so circle back for that. But first things first, let's talk about three players I think that will really benefit from Ken Dorsey being the offensive coordinator, starting with quarterback Deshaun Watson. Now, Deshaun Watson is on this list for a handful of reasons, but the first and maybe most important reason is this just has to work, right? When you move on from one offensive coordinator to the next, and that offensive coordinator wasn't even the play caller, I wouldn't say that screams like desperation from the head coach to get things working, but I don't think Alex Van Pelt was the biggest issue with Deshaun Watson and the Browns' offense at times last year. Was it working as well as people would have hoped? No. Did there have to be a fall guy? Yeah. Was it unfortunate for AVP it was himself? He would say so. But this has to work, right? So for this reason alone, we're going to come at an angle of the Ken Dorsey hire was made to maximize Deshaun Watson. Like, that's where all of Ken Dorsey's focus will be. And he's got a pretty good lineage of getting great play out of good quarterbacks. Cam Newton in 2015, he was his quarterback's coach, coached him all the way to being an MVP. And Cam Newton has been very outspoken about how instrumental and great Ken Dorsey was for his success. Then Dorsey goes up to Buffalo. Josh Allen comes over from Wyoming. And remember, when Josh Allen was selected by the Bills, there were a lot of concerns about Allen just having a rocket of an arm, but no touch, no accuracy, no feel for the game. Obviously, Ken Dorsey got some really good play out of Josh Allen, and there's a lot of parties that are responsible for Josh Allen and Cam Newton's success, but Ken Dorsey is definitely one of the more prominent figures in both players' success throughout the NFL. So when you think about what Ken Dorsey is going to focus on for Deshaun Watson and areas of improvement, emphasis on ball security. Before filming today's video, I went back and read over the transcript of Ken Dorsey's introductory press conference back in February. And one thing that just kept popping up no matter what the question was ball security and how they have to be better at protecting the football. And frankly, it can't get any worse than last year. The Browns ranked dead last in turnovers. And the Bills, while Ken Dorsey was only there for about 2/3 of the season before getting fired after a game, by the way, against the Denver Broncos on Monday Night Football, where the Bills turned it over, I think, 4 or 5 times, and that was ultimately the demise of Ken Dorsey, weren't much better than Cleveland. They were tied for 25th in turnovers. The season prior, 30th, 27 turnovers. But back in 2015 with the Carolina Panthers in their best year, 17 turnovers, which was tied for 8th. So you can definitely see that Ken Dorsey, he has learned from his mistakes, or at least that's got to be the hope and goal, that he learned that he was out in Buffalo because they just kept turning the ball over. And it got to a point where Sean McDermott, whether that was Ken Dorsey's fault or the player's fault, and personally, I struggle with blaming coordinators for turnovers because they're not the ones taking the hits that lead to a drop ball, or they're not the ones making poor decisions when throwing to a linebacker instead of a wide receiver. I put that more on the players than the coaching staff, but ultimately, you're not going to fire your quarterback in the middle of the season when you've got Josh Allen. You're going to fire your offensive coordinator. So I think Ken Dorsey is going to come to Cleveland learning, you know what, ultimately, turnovers were my demise, and I'm not going to make that same mistake again in Cleveland. So, second area for improvement, protecting Deshaun Watson's health. The Browns go, I wouldn't say as Deshaun Watson goes, because last year we saw the defense carry this team as far as they went. But the offense was much better with Deshaun Watson on the field than without Deshaun Watson. That I am not going to argue with. So, protecting Watson and making sure he's on the field for all 17 games has to be one of Ken Dorsey's biggest priorities. In fact, he spoke about this on protecting Watson during his introductory press conference, saying, is it first down and we're scrambling? We got a first down already. Get down, get out of bounds, and save yourself the hit. And those types of things, those are all things that we'll look at because clearly this team is at a different level when he's on the field. I think in English, the coach speak here translated to fan language is a bigger focus on quarterback play in terms of passing the ball versus scrambling and using your legs and taking more hits. Because ultimately, Deshaun Watson, I don't think he got injured yet last year taking a sack, right? That wasn't the injury that knocked him out for the remainder of the 2023 season. No, it was him scrambling for yards against the Baltimore Ravens. And listen, that's going to be the price of doing business with a quarterback like Deshaun Watson. He's got legs. He's going to want to scramble. That's going to lead to more sacks, and that's going to frustrate coaches, but that's also going to lead to big plays down the field because DBs can only cover a man for so long, and if the pass rush doesn't get home, someone's going to get open. So there's pros and cons to the style of play Deshaun Watson and other quarterbacks have, but ultimately it's a lot more frustrating for a defense if they can't get a grasp on the quarterback and he's dancing around in the backfield for a long time because someone's going to get open, and Watson has a rocket arm where he can find someone down the field. But I think Ken Dorsey's going to want to have a much bigger emphasis on Watson, use your arm more than your legs. Not saying that there will be no scripted plays for Deshaun Watson. He's not allowed to scramble. He'll be like Peyton Manning in his final year in Denver. No, I don't think it's going to be that extreme, but I do think you're going to see a bit of a pendulum swing to, you're a quarterback. We're not going to try and act like this is a wildcat offense. Let's tone down the rushes just a little bit so that we can make sure you're healthy. Third area for improvement, Watson's physical skill set. I mean, this was literally word for word something Ken Dorsey said in his press conference when asked about, when you watch Deshaun Watson's tape, like, what are some of the strengths that jump out to you? And the first thing Ken Dorsey said was Watson's physical skill set. And it's still present. Like, I know that there are people that don't watch Browns games and they want to do their absolute best to make sure the whole country knows that the Browns and Deshaun Watson are doomed forever because Watson stinks. But if you actually watch the games, I don't think that is completely true. Is Watson a perfect quarterback in Cleveland? Absolutely not. No, there are definitely things that need to be improved and worked on, but I don't think it's as bad and as dire as some people make it out to be because, I mean, go back last year, right? We'll just pull up the tape here. Against the Titans, Deshaun Watson is taking a sack. 9 quarterbacks out of 10 result in a sack here. Watson gets out of it, makes a big play down the field. How about the last game we saw him against the Baltimore Ravens? Under 2 minutes to go, need to get in field goal range. Deshaun Watson on his own half of the 50. He's about to get tackled for a loss. Maybe no gain at best. What does Watson do on this play? He sheds the tackler, and he scrambles for a first down, and they're that much closer to Dustin Hopkins range to win the game and complete a 16-point comeback in the second half. But it's not just his legs that we have seen the physical skill set the last 2 years in Cleveland. I did some deep digging on advanced passing stats for Deshaun Watson, and I looked at his 2023 stats of 10 or more yards down the field. Not like if you dumped it off and the running back ran for 15 yards, but actual passes intended of 10-plus yards. Watson went 25 for 53, so a little under 50% completion percentage, which that alone doesn't sound great, but compared to the rest of the league, sub 50%, 48, 49 completion percentage of 10 or more yards, not too shabby. 545 yards, 3 touchdowns. Pro Football Focus also has a metric called Big Time Throw, which just takes into account how far down the field, the circumstance, and the accuracy of the pass. Right on the money, right? 22% big time throw. Not too shabby either. So the casuals are going to try and tell you Deshaun Watson has just sucked in Cleveland. I disagree. Has it been smooth sailing? No. But I think the largest reason for Deshaun Watson not having as much success as we would have hoped for, maybe envisioned through 2 years, is chalked up to lack of availability, right? Only playing the last 6 games of 2022. And then in 2023, missing time due to injuries. And on top of that, turnovers. Ken Dorsey focuses on curbing the lack of availability and the turnovers that we have seen from Watson in the first 2 weeks or first 2 years in Cleveland. And we're going to see much more of the physical skill set that's very much present. So I think those 2 areas are something that Ken Dorsey is going to really harp in on. And that's why Watson is going to flourish under Ken Dorsey. Now, how many touchdowns for Deshaun Watson in 2024? Get in the comment section below and let me know how many TDs for number 4. Second player to flourish under Ken Dorsey, I'm going to go with wide receiver Jerry Jeudy. Now, I could have gone with a chalk answer like Amari Cooper, but the reality is stars like Amari Cooper, they're going to get their yards, touchdowns, receptions with pretty much any coaching staff in place. Jerry Jeudy, I think, is going to really enjoy the Ken Dorsey experience. And I hope I don't eat these words. But I want to share with you guys something Ken Dorsey said back in February about what the offense will look like. And he said, and really the first couple of weeks of the season, that's when things start defining kind of who you are from an identity standpoint. Because when you look at free agency, draft, and all those things, it takes time to work all those pieces. Are we going to be an 11 team, a 12 team, a 21 team? Personnel he's talking about. You don't know that. You can't say that right now because we don't have the roster. That was back in February. We do now have the roster. And I have a pretty good idea as what kind of personnel groupings we can expect from the Browns. 11 personnel, by the way, means 1 running back, 1 tight end. 12 personnel is 1 running back, 2 tight ends. So with that knowledge in mind now, because Dorsey didn't have it in February, Browns didn't add a tight end. If they did, I think they'd be a lot more of a 12 personnel team. 1 running back, 2 tight ends on the field. Did they really add a big running back? We're going to call Deontay Foreman a marquee free agent signing? I'm not. So I don't think we're going to see a lot of 21 personnel. 2 running backs, 1 tight end. But they did add a wide receiver in Jerry Jeudy. So Ken Dorsey back in February didn't know what kind of personnel additions would be made. But we know now. And because we know that information now, I think we're going to see Jerry Jeudy be the beneficiary of the type of offense Ken Dorsey would like to run, because he wants to run an offense geared to how the offense and the roster, more importantly, has been designed. And it's being designed to get a lot of 3 wide receiver looks, which means Jerry Jeudy is going to flourish. And I'll say why in a moment. But first, if you want to get a Jerry Jeudy jersey, go to chatsports.com/Jeudy jersey. I put that link in the comments and description of today's video. So get yourself a brand new Cleveland Browns jersey. Again, chatsports.com/Jeudy jersey. So let me explain why I think Jeudy is going to be a big winner from this hire, because of what Ken Dorsey said about not knowing what the personnel groupings are. And now that we do know, well, let's look at the Bills wide receivers last year and the targets they got. Stephon Diggs had 160 targets. Gabe Davis got 81. Khalil Shakir got 45. Compare that to the Browns now wide receivers last year. Amari Cooper, 128. Jeudy with the Broncos last year got 87, and Elijah Moore got 104. So not as drastic of a jump from number 2 to number 1 for the Browns and Moore and Cooper last year compared to the Bills last year with Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs. So because the Browns like to spread it out a little bit more than Buffalo did last year, plus because, well, you know, Ken Dorsey said, I need to know the personnel I'm working with. And now that we know it's been an addition at wide receiver versus a tight end or a running back, I think that is what Ken Dorsey is going to lean into, his roster personnel. Jerry Jeudy a season ago for the Broncos, 758 yards, 54 grabs. Has he reached that mountaintop of 1,000 yards? No, not yet. But I think Jerry Jeudy is going to get there, or very close to it at least this year, because Ken Dorsey wants to lean into the strength of his roster. And Andrew Berry added a wide receiver, not a tight end, not a running back, which means I think we're going to see more targets for Jerry Jeudy, and that's going to lead to more production for him. Now, the NFL schedule release day is today, so we're going to have a full breakdown of the schedule release in a few hours once we have all 17 games. So make sure to come back and watch that video, subscribe, turn on your notifications so you don't miss a thing. Now, speaking of the tight end room, I've got David Njoku down as a guy that I think will ball out under Ken Dorsey, because I looked at what Ken Dorsey had to work with last year. And Buffalo used their first-round draft pick on tight end from Utah, Dalton Kincaid. And in his rookie year, had 73 grabs, 673 yards, 2 touchdowns. Those numbers may seem a little pedestrian, but for a rookie tight end, they're really not. In fact, I looked at the NFL history of rookie tight ends, and Dalton Kincaid has 91 targets. That ranks 5th all-time. Reception, 73, 3rd all-time. Yards, 6 all-time. Now, the touchdowns weren't there, but I think the touchdowns are only going to improve for Dalton Kincaid as he gets further in his career. But the point is, what did the Bills do in the draft? They went tight end first. what did Ken Dorsey do? He leaned into the roster. He's not stubborn. He's not someone that goes, I don't like tight ends. I don't care if you use a first-round pick on a tight end. I'm not going to draw up plays for a tight end. No. Guy had a really good tight end. Ken Dorsey used that really good tight end. Now can you start to connect the dots here? Imagine what he's going to do with David Njoku, who last year had a career year. 81 grabs, 882 yards, 6 touchdowns. Dorsey got a taste last year of really solid tight end play. He had that with Greg Olsen back in Carolina, but Greg Olsen at that stage in his career was a much more established player. Last year, he gets a young tight end, Dalton Kincaid. He leans into him, and he gets great results for a rookie tight end. Now with David Njoku, I think he's going to really want to smash the tight end button. So I'm excited for what Ken Dorsey can do with David Njoku, Jerry Jeudy, and Deshaun Watson. All right, we're going to bring on Cullen Brown to pick a card. Cullen, which card do you want to go with, my friend?
I'm going to go with 8 of diamonds today.
8 of diamonds? I'm going to go with the 5 of clubs. No, someone else always picks that in the comment section. I'm going to go with the 5 of hearts.
Okay.
I'm going to jump off the Golden Gate Bridge. 5 of clubs.
Oh my God. Shout out to whoever comments that.
I can't believe this.
Oh my God.
Okay. You know who you are. Comment almost every video saying there's no 5 of clubs in the deck. There's a 5 of clubs in the deck! Go Brownies.